This is an example of a little multi-story forest garden patch that we're standing in.
Yep.
And a few of the layers you'll see here. The canopy layer is the pecan tree back there.
Up above, yeah.
Up above.
Okay, I can see that. Yep.
This guy. It hasn't started fruiting yet, but being as this tree is now 9-10 years old, that's it's right on the edge. That is typically 10 years is about when they start to bear nuts. So
yes,
we've gotten our first few handfuls of pecan nuts off of some of the trees in the garden. So
yeah,
that's an exciting time for us.
Yeah,
in that sense.
Yeah, and my understanding is that nut trees generally take longer to produce than fruit trees. Is that your general?
Yeah, yep. The larger trees tend to take longer than the smaller things.
And
so okay. Some of them are a very long wait pecan. So that's our canopy layer here. It's a small tree yet, only like 20 feet tall or something.
Yep.
But as it grows, we will continue to remove these lower branches.
Yep.
Because we don't really need this down in this layer. This layer is to be occupied by this tree here. This is a Chickasaw Plum. This is one of our native plums.
Okay.
We grow a variety of different things, but this is it's a wild tree. Okay. So this plum is crunchy and sour.
Yep.
But it cooks beautifully into things. The chef that does the dinners here loves this, has used it for sauces on all kinds of things. So,
right.
Major part of the philosophy and the goal here is what is this landscape offering us? How can we use that? It's that is not my favorite plum, but this is our native plum. So it's let me try to respect that and understand it as much as we can. So we have the harvest net here right now, collecting the plums as they fall.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll give this tree a shake and harvest every few days.
And what an easy way to harvest,
Yep.
That's so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this will be going in the dinner that's coming up in the next 4 weeks or so.
Yep. Is that something that you've thought about, is how you actually harvest, particularly the trees? I know some places I've visited, you've got to get on a ladder to get up. My thoughts around that was around, hey, forget about that. Why don't we just plant fruit and nut trees that are easier to harvest? You can, and in this example here, it looks like you can shake the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is one of the challenges that you get into with diversity.
Yeah.
Because every plant has a slightly different harvesting requirement.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So yeah, we've been experimented with, we grow a lot of mulberries here, for example. We use the same harvest net for those, and it works pretty good if you're using those berries for drying them or something. We like to dry mulberries and then grind them into a powder and use that in baking.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah.
But if you want a fresh mulberry for presentation on a plate, you can't shake it into a net like this, because it gets a little bit bruised and it becomes sort of a limp, less presentable thing.
Yes.
So in that case, we find ourselves climbing around on ladders, picking the mulberries one by one, for a dinner where we want to have a presentable mulberry. So it depends on what you're doing.
What you're doing with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Cool.
So this is our understory tree. This is never going to. This tree doesn't get much bigger than it is now.
Right.
Much smaller tree than this pecan back here. So it's positioned so that one day it will be under the branches of this pecan tree as we continue to take off the lower branches. Let that pecan be the canopy.
Yeah.
But it's also positioned, because we're in the northern hemisphere, it's positioned to the south. So the south is over here. It's morning right now. So your morning sun comes in over here, noonday, afternoon sun. So we place the smaller plants to the southerly sides of the taller plants, so that they can continue to.
That makes sense. It's a bit
get the sun that they need.
Yeah.
You might hear forest garden and think that the whole thing is dark, but a lot of these things, they really do need a certain amount of light. So we try to arrange them to allow that.
Sort of like sun trapping, isn't it? For the plants.
Yep.
Sun trapping can be thought of for vegetable gardens, but you can also think about it for trees as well.
Yeah. You get a microclimate developing on the sun side.
Yeah.
So we'll look at some of the other plants over here, but okay, so acknowledging like we're trying to play with the sun, you do also develop these shade niches behind the leading layer, and we're sort of abusing it right now, but this is a wonderful shade crop. This is a native fern called Ostrich Fern, and you eat this fiddlehead. Oh, really? That's called a fiddlehead. The shoot that's opening up is a lovely vegetable, and this does not require sunlight in any great degree. It loves the shade. As long as it has the moisture, then it's good to go. And it's just
there you go.
Really tasty.
Yeah, nice.
Raw or sauteed. Or you should have one too.
I should have one. Yeah, thank you.
So.
Oh wow.
We do pay attention. Nice, right?
Nice. Yeah.
And you can pickle those things.
Oh yeah.
So good. And they spread like crazy. I actually was just in here. We harvested these in the spring. These fiddleheads. That's the main time when they're shooting.
Yep.
Now it's time to harvest the plums, so we scythe out underneath it here, clear up. And we kind of follow the harvest around with a scythe or the sickle bar mower. So we're scything ahead of when everything is ready. Scythe down a bunch of these ferns. They will be back. You know, they don't mind that too much.
Yeah,
they spread aggressively, which is what you're looking for.
Yes.
So you can see some of the taller ones back there, and they will fill right back into here, and we'll be able to harvest them again.
They're a pioneering fern.
Yep.
Yeah, in the system. Yeah.
And then too, you have certain shrubs that you can grow in these less productive shady niches. This is a native gooseberry. This is one of our. This is called Missouri gooseberry or Ribes missouriensis. We actually found these in the woods back here, so we dug up some patches to bring them out and see what they do. And you'll get a handful of berries off of this. Not prime, but that's fine. It can occupy this shady niche and do a little something, provide some wildlife habitat.
Yep.
So I look at those like when we're designing our layers.
Yep.
You're always going to end up with a shady area. You can grow some crops in the shade behind those tall trees.
Yes.
It's also a prime location for your support plants. Anything that are there to support wildlife, build soil, etc.
Yep.
You don't need to occupy your prime sunny design real estate for your support plants.
Yeah.
So put
your pollinators.
Yeah, exactly. Those kind of things. So that's what you tend to find in these back areas.
Yeah, great. Terrific.
But continuing on with this patch, if you can see past the grapevines, this is a high bush cranberry.
Oh yes.
Viburnum trilobum, and this has always been a very happy crop for us. It's not it's not something you can eat fresh particularly, but you can make sauces out of it.
Yep.
Again, it's a native plant.
Yep.
And then over here, looking a little bit mid to late season-ish, is the black raspberry trellis. Again, the black raspberry is a plant that we find growing wild in the woods edge around these parts. It's our native rubus.
Yep.
And so acknowledging that, we collect varieties of this, selections where it fruits more or better.
Yep.
And it's a smaller type of plant, which is why it sits even further to the south compared to this Chickasaw plum that we were just looking at.
Yeah, so you've got this sort of layering, but also aligned to the sun.
Yes.
As well.
Yep.
On that angle. Yeah.
And it's the last layer before you get out to the vegetable garden there, which sits fully to the south, with a lawn to the south of it to maintain. We don't have extensive vegetable gardens in the forest garden. Our primary emphasis is the forest garden itself, but we do want a certain amount of space for those vegetables. So we have allocated this for that.
And so when you say vegetables, are you talking about predominantly an annual vegetable patch, or are you still focusing on perennials?
It's some of each. So we grow, like you can see squashes growing there. That's one of our native wonderful crops.
Yep.
Squash growing all over. And that yellow flower, that's socan, which is a Cherokee vegetable. It's a black-eyed Susan, where you can we have harvested this thing extensively throughout the year, and it just keeps giving.
Right.
It's an incredible, nutritious thing. And you see Lambsquarters growing with that. Lambsquarters is a weed that many people pull out of the garden.
Many people will be familiar with that plant.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's incredibly nutritious. It's related to quinoa. And
Okay.
and it it's at least as nutritious as any of the greens that you're going to grow in the garden. So
Wow.
we encourage it, and we have harvested and harvested and harvested throughout the year. We'll either harvest it like day of or a little week of for the dinners that we put on, but it also freezes really well. So we can, and we have with these plants, we've taken all the tops off, put up several bags of it in the freezer, so that next time we're preparing a dinner or something, we can cook that up, and it's absolutely lovely. So the vegetable gardens, we have the tomatoes and the kale and those kind of things, but we also use that niche for some of the perennial vegetables.
Great. Awesome.